Well, we have a little different operation than Gabe. Gabe, I'd say, was real mature. If you're familiar with New Testament, and Paul talks about those infants and only feed them milk, that would be me. I would tell you that what we've done over the years with our dairy farm is that we have learned and we've made changes. I'm also going to put a plug in for SARE and Practical Farmers of Iowa. I think they do a great job. I know that she's probably taking memberships today. Would be glad to pick those up, and I got to pay mine too. But I was president of Iowa Farm Bureau for 10 years, and now it's really nice to be free of policy because now I can speak the way I want to and about the things I want to, and I don't have to worry about the membership. We have a dairy operation. I have two sons, 29 and 27, that are run a 600 cow dairy. It's a mixed breed. We show registered Ayrshires, registered Holstein, and registered Jerseys. And yes, we've had champion each one at the Iowa State Fair, but the bulk of our herd has a Jersey cross in because of high solids and high fat. We find that's the most economical. So most of these pictures and most of everything I talk about today will be because what benefits our dairy farm. This is my neighbor's field. This is not mine. I cannot talk about the value of the livestock industry without talking about the value of cover crops and what it means to the environment. This farm has been in a continuous corn-soybean rotation for at least 30 years. It's never seen a legume, it's never seen a grass, never seen a meadow, and this is pretty common every year. This is our farm right across the road on the same day. This is triticale. We would have liked to have had it chopped by now. But last year it seemed to want to rain every day. We did get this chopped before the insurance deadline in the first week of June, and you'll see some of those pictures. I put this together. It's more on the line I realized after I came here. If I was talking to a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club, you'll see a lot of repetition. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it because you know all these things. But my question is, cover crops make sense, and why is that? For us, they provide more diversity in agriculture. It takes us away from the monoculture of corn and soybeans. Even in our dairy, we always rotated oats, field peas, now triticale. We've done winter rye. We've done grain rye. We've done all of those things. We find that it works really easy in our operation. It provides us with more value for our own farm and our community. It certainly protects the soils in harsh weather, both from wind and rain and snow. Protects the water from nutrient runoff. You heard this morning, if we don't do something on a voluntary perspective, EPA is going to force us to do something, and we might not be ready for that. Our dairy animals find a very valuable feed source for us, and I'll go into that further. We actually pasture into late fall with our shortbred heifers, whether it's triticale or whether it's barley or whether it's wheat, what we've used before. We find that it's very practical for fall grazing. We know for a fact that it improves the soil tilth and it allows us a double cropping on our farm, and none of our neighbors have the ability to double crop. And I think maybe as important as anything, well, I also know that my two sons and hopefully my grandchildren will be the seventh generation that farms our ground, and we want to leave it in better shape than we inherited it, and certainly more productive for the kids. Now, everybody, it was talked about this morning, Ken Burns' project. I hope that made you sick when you watched that. My dad is 88 in March. He said it brought back emotions. It almost made him cry to look at that. We should never have that man-made kind of disaster again. U.S. farmers should set the example for farmers around the world. I believe that. And you can't talk about cover crops without talking about feeding and energizing a growing world population and doing it in the right way. So my question, are you and are we? Are we doing the right things that it takes to have a more productive world, to reach that growing demand of population that we will have to feed, that will have to be fed in the future? Unfortunately, most of that population is in Asia and Africa. There's a lot of work to do there, but I also think cover crops will fit into their farming practices. This is a picture I took in Nairobi, Kenya, of a classroom in the slums of Nairobi. In a minute, this is in Kitale, a mass of people. We can't feed a world with continuing to lose the soil and not building the nutrients as we've done in the past. Nairobi again, and in the classroom, these kids received 1,250 calories a day. That's why they came to class from kindergarten to 8th grade, so they were fed, and that's the only meal they got every day. And we sit here in a world of plenty, with plenty of food to eat, but you cannot go to those places in the world and come back and say, I'm not going to do anything. You have to do something. I took this in India in February last year, in China a few years earlier, in Hong Kong, the wet markets. So it brings me right back to what we're doing as a farm family. We're raising what we think is nutritious meat and milk. The cow-calf operation, we're just growing into that now. And it's going to be a very good complement to our dairy herd. And the reason I didn't talk about this earlier is because we are now breeding 200 of our lowest producers. We're semen sexing the top 200 cows. We AI everything. The top producers, the lower 200, are being bred to a beef cross. The reason is simple, because if you have a Jersey bull calf that's born, no one wants it. No one wants it. If you have a Holstein cross in there, you might get $25 for it. And we don't have the labor for that. But if you have a cross and beef, all at once that calf is worth $100. So it makes a lot of sense to us to not only grow our dairy, but our beef. Because it's a valuable feed. I'll go through this quick because you know all these things. I'll try to reinforce them a little bit later. It does enhance our following crops. We haven't had, we don't have figures to show you, but we know that it not only improves our soybeans, but also improves our corn. The 300 acres where our dairy site is this year, it stopped raining in the middle of June and didn't rain again until October. We plant about 40,000 population, and we use a hybrid that's, we believe, is proven. It stopped raining in June, did not rain again until October, and we averaged 280 bushel of corn. That's dry. And I think a large part of that is because of the soil tilth, the high organic matter, the animal nutrients, all of those things that went into it. So guess what? Our neighbors are starting to watch. They're starting to say, what are you doing differently than I did? Because I only had 160 bushel or maybe 150 bushel just across the road on the other side. What is it you're doing that makes a difference? This triticale is in a bunker silo. Basically, I'll give you the analysis in a minute. It's about 80-90% relative feed value. It's about like poor hay or medium hay, really. So it's really a pretty good feed mixed with other things. This is the analysis. This is poorer than it should be. It should be higher than 12% protein. But because of the rain, not only this year, but the year before, the triticale headed out. You'd like to get it in the boot stage. It's a higher nutritional value for the animals. This feed has a mixture of corn silage, triticale, and corn stalks in it. This year, there's no corn silage. It's only triticale, ground hay, wet corn gluten, and some dried distillers for minerals and vitamins. It makes sense on our farm because of the soil fertility, protection of the soil. Go through these again. I've mentioned these before. But when you're talking to a Rotary Club, you need to go over them 3 or 4 times before that makes sense. Now I'll show you, this is what catches people's attention. This was in early October. We drilled this triticale in 2012. We were able to do it the first week of September. We got a little bit of rain on it, then didn't rain again. And I put the barn in the background to give you an idea of the location on most of the pictures. We also seeded in deep till radish. I like the idea of this, but the deep till radish has to be put in August. I live right along Interstate 80, and I think in order to get the tubular to grow as deep as you want to, it's better that you try to get in the corn or the standing soybeans in the middle of August if possible. This will eliminate the need for deep till rippers. You can see this came off corn silage because there's hardly any residue, and that's the way we started in our operation. Is that we didn't like the idea first that we had no cover, so we started seeding the cover crop, and then we decided, well, we'll try to chop it in the spring, no-till soybeans into it, and guess what? We started to get up to 4 tons of dry matter per acre, and we didn't lose what we felt was any measurable amount of soybean yield. This year we did, because we got it chopped just before the deadline on insurance, had to be in the field planting the day we were chopping in order to June 10th. And that's a problem. And I think that's one we ought to address. This is barley. We seeded barley a year ago, or this will be 2 years ago now, the first week of September. Our idea was, well, it'll grow really good, 45 days, we'll harvest it, we'll bale it, and then everything's great. It didn't rain. But what we were able to do, we were able to graze this all fall into the winter and again in the spring for a while before March 1st. This is the spring of last year. This is the field of triticale and radishes that you saw earlier. This is the way it looked early in the spring. And the neighbors like to see that. So do I. I like to see something green grow really early. And they start saying, well, what do you got out there and how come you have it? Well, for us, it's a valuable feed source and it does protect our resources. This is the day of harvest, the first week of June. The triticale, as you see, it's headed out. We'd much rather not have it headed out, but you'll see in a minute how much rain that we got. We had to wait at least until we didn't mud up the fields. You can see it's a pretty good windrow behind it. That's from my viewpoint. That's 4 tons of dry matter per acre. The nice thing about this, this triticale, if you mow it, it does green up some again. The roots keep growing. It doesn't die off unless you spray it, say late July, to get late germinating weeds in a soybean field, so you have the value of the growth for at least another month or two. The other thing is, I noticed when I was hauling manure on this field this fall, that those lines of grass are still there. There's no erosion whatsoever because it helps hold the soil together. We were chopping. As you can see, the fields are a little bit muddy. You don't need anything sophisticated like bunker silos or even bags or anything else. We dump ours right out on the ground, pack it with a tractor. And this is the field we no-tilled beans into it. I had to do a little disking on the end rows because when it was muddy like that, they left a lot of tracks and tore it up a little bit. As you can see, this field's already starting to green up a little bit because this was, I think, 2 weeks after we chopped it. The triticale's starting to green up again. And the one thing that I didn't do, and I wish I had, Sarah, was taking pictures of harvested soybeans when we harvested it, and I didn't do that because I had no idea I was going to speak here. This is just for myself. This is the same area. We live in Rolling Hills. This was a 4-inch rain in early March. That's a 2.5 acre pond back there. It ran over the top and down the middle there for almost 2 days. And it only drains about 40 acres. Can you imagine what that looked like if that hadn't been alfalfa? And above this, the 160 acres above that, that's where the line is, that's all triticale. So it all had cover, no erosion, no loss. And this is my neighbor's field. This was taken the first week of June. And you know, I don't want to speak unkindly, but this is fundamentally a problem that we have in Iowa, is that we could do so much better. There's no waterways there. And see, you can tell they disced up and down where the old erosion was on that field, and that's no-tilled. So I think Ray Gasser talked today about the events that we have, how important it is that we need to do something more than we're doing today. And this is our field across the road. Why use cover crops? Because for us it makes a difference. It protects our soil and wind from wind and rain. It adds the value of soil structure. I believe it works as a natural herbicide. We've cut down on the amount of herbicides we have on beans because of the triticale growing in. All of our soybeans are no-tilled into triticale, or whatever we use. I'm going to start seeding hairy vetch. We've used red clover. We've had turnips. We've done radish. There's one other one I'm missing over the years. It's a valuable feed for forage. Those heifers, the cost of feed for those heifers is $1.35 per head per day. If I'd added corn silage to it, it'd be another 30 cents on top of that. And it allows us to have an opportunity for my boys to prove that they can do something better than I ever did. This is that same pile that we started. It's not real pretty, but I thought this was the 1st of February. Now we've had 24 inches of snow since then, but I thought I'd show you a picture of kind of what it looks like in the winter, is that anybody can do this. And that's why I believe the livestock industry should grow along with the cover crop industry, because it provides a valuable feed. It's easily adapted. It's affordable. And farmers just don't have to get out of the cab and do a little work now and then and start to adopt this kind of technology, because I think it's a wave that everyone should support. So thank you.